Hi guys, it's Becky, and today I had an idea for a beaded chain necklace using the most recent Bargain Bead Box, which was, I believe, the Falling Leaves, something like that. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Falling Leaves because it was the one where it went from green through the yellows to the reds and oranges, and we had these rose gold findings for that. And so I pulled out some of the beads from there and I started making a beaded chain necklace with it. And the beads that I'm using for the beaded chain are these leaf beads. They're drilled from top to bottom. And there's these larger green ones, and then these like magma vitriol or something. I think that's the name of the coating. These yellow, not yellow, like orangey, fiery orange ones. And so I've been using both of those. I used 10 of these smaller ones and 12 of these larger ones to make my chains. And then I wanted to use the leaf pendant in conjunction with this carved aventurine leaf pendant. So we'll be putting these together to make a focal in a little bit. And that's going to be the main part of this. And for closure, we're just going to grab the toggle clasps that came in the box. They're pretty great looking toggle clasps. For my chain, I've made two different links. I'm using some 22 gauge rose gold craft wire and some 20 gauge rose gold craft wire, and I'm doing simple loops with the 20 gauge and wrapped loops with the 22 gauge. We're going to use the 22 gauge when we do our focal for this. For our tools, I'm using my 6-step bell making pliers for my loops. You can use a round nose plier. If you don't have a 6-step bell making plier, just be consistent with your loops. I've got some flush cutters for cutting my wire, and some chain nose pliers for smoothing things out where they need to be. And so I just want to show you the chains that I've already started putting together, like this. And I wanted all my leaves pointing in the same direction. And the reason I am doing some wrapped loops and some simple loops is just to make it easier to put it together. And I'll show you that in a minute. So I've got this one, and I need to add two more links to this chain, and then we can work on the focal. So I'll show you the links and how I've been making them. I will start with the wrapped loops. Where's the end of my, there it is. So I'm just excited to be making some jewelry again, because this last week there's been a lot going on, and the terrible thing about it is I haven't had a lot of time for jewelry making. I mean, I had a little bit of time to work on the bead weaving project that I shared with y'all earlier this month, but not a lot of other time for making things. And what's terrible about that is that I really like using jewelry making as a way to center myself, as a way to ground myself when everything else is chaos. I can at least control what's happening here, and I can make something beautiful out of my day. And so not being able to do that is really hard when everything else is going on. So I'm glad that I can get back to this today and that I could be sharing it. It's not even a matter of me missing y'all, because like I did, but it's just this act of creating, you know, it makes life worth living to be able to create at the same time. I know some of y'all feel the same way, which is why we are good friends, because we understand this about each other. All right, so for my wrapped loop, I'm going to be using the smallest step on my 6-step bell making pliers. But before I start wrapping it around there, I'm going to bend it back a little bit and then pull this forward. I like doing that one step, and then rotate it around so that we get that loop on there. And most of the time I'll just leave it on here while I do the wrapping, just to keep the the loop from getting bigger or smaller or something like that. And I'm wrapping it without linking it to anything because my other links will have simple loops, so I can just open and close them and attach them directly to my wrapped loop. And that's why I'm using two different links. Strategery, that's what that is. Right. Just smoothing this out. And one of the reasons I like to put the bead on before I cut it is so that I can then take my two fingers, place it against the bottom of the bead, and then I can cut right there at the bottom of my second finger. Don't cut your finger, just cut the wire, and that gives me enough wire to be able to complete my second wrapped loop. So I've got my wire there. I'm going to pinch it right there at the bottom, bend it over the top. I'm going to use my bill making pliers again. So like with this one, I just use the side of the pliers for my bend. And in this one, I'm using this because it gives me the right height to have space for wrapping. So I'm going to put my smallest loop up here on the top of it. It's going to be really fiddly because I am doing this far away from my face and in front of the camera. Let me pull it all the way around. You can adjust this if you need to. You can use pliers for wrapping if you'd like instead of your fingers. There we go. And now I've got myself a little wrapped loop. I'm going to trim off my excess. Tuck my pointy end. And this guy's ready to go. And that was using the 22 gauge wire. So now I'm going to grab the 20 gauge wire and I'm going to do some simple loops with my larger leaf beads. And this one's already cut flush because I cut it that way when I did it. And again, I'm working off the spool. I like to put the bead on first so I know where to cut it. And for this one, I'm actually going to be using the second step in my bail making pliers to make this loop. And it's just a style choice. I feel like I like this loop a little bit better, that size a little bit better when I'm doing my simple loops. I'm just turning it till it's pressing down on the other side, and then I'm just going to, while this is on here, rotate this to the back and give it a little bend. I'm squishing it flat with my pliers because that helps work harden it so it holds better. All right, and there we are. So here near the end of here, it's going to be about 1 finger's length, and I'm going to be cutting extra off later. But see, we're not wrapping it, so I don't need to have 2 fingers lengths. And your mileage may vary. You may not have chonky fingers like I do. My dad used to call these peasant fingers. But it's fine because these fingers can do a lot of cool things. I'm fine with my fingers. Oh, I forgot to talk you through this part. When it's right here, all I did was just press with my thumb gently to get a bend flush up against the end of the bead. Because we don't need the room for wrapping, I can just bend it over like that. And that's one of the reasons why I made sure that this point was pointing down, was to do that. Again, you want to be careful with bending it because these are glass and it could break. But that's why I just used my thumb and just pressed it like that to get that bend. So now that I've got that bend, I can get the second step on top. I can start bending this around. And about there, right there is where I'm going to want to cut. And then we will close the loop up a little bit more. So I've got my I've got my flush cutters. And right there where I was pointing, that's where I'm going to cut. I've got my thumb over the end so it doesn't go flying. All right, and now we can get this loop back in here and close it up. I actually would like it closed a little bit more than that. So I'm putting my finger over here on this side, and I'm just going to give it a real gentle push, that end, with this. And that closes it up even better. And then I can smush this flat. And I have my simple loop. All right, so this is how I've been attaching these. On this one, I have 6 of the large green beads and 5 of the orange ones. And so for this one, I just need to add 2 more links. And I'll do that by opening and closing this simple loop at the end of my chain. And so you swing that open like you do with the jump ring. Put on the wrapped loop link and then swing that closed. I like to, after I close it, give just a little bit of a tap just to get the closure a little bit more even. And so on this end, in order to attach this one, and look what I did. I was so busy talking that I forgot to put it on the right way. So let's open and close that one more time. Swing it open. And I want the point pointing down, because that's the direction that all these other leaves are going. I was so careful when I was putting it together without y'all. So on this one, because I want the point pointing down, I'm going to open that end. I have to figure out which side of this is the open end. There we go. I found it. I did such a good job of making a simple loop that I couldn't tell the difference between that and the other. All right, so now that it's on there, I can close it. And that part is together. So these will be our 2 sides, so let's work on making our focal. And I think I'm going to be using this 20 gauge wire for this. I'm just going to pull off. This mat is about 12 inches wide. Let's just pull that much off, because I can always make other things with this if I need to. But I'm just going to run my fingers along this to kind of straighten it out and to warm up the wire. All right, so I think about 1/3 of the way along, that's where I want this to be. Because I do want a longer end and a shorter end. So 1/3 of the way should work. And where this is going like this, I'm just going to use my fingers and push that edge back this way. And then I'm going to use my thumb, push this one up this way. See, I've got my shorter end and I've got my longer end. And now I'm going to put those ends, well, let me start with the long end. That would be the smart thing. I'm going to put those ends through a couple of holes right here on here. We're going to slide this up here. So this is going to be where I want it to be. I'm pinching all of this and then pushing with my thumb just to either side. So pinch here and here, and then just move it like that. All right, now I'm going to go through here with the shorter end. I'm pushing rather than pulling right now. Just trying to get this through. Wrapped around. And now I'm going to start pulling. And pushing. Because this is so delicate, I'm trying to be very careful and gentle and not bend it. With this wire. There we go. So now that that's wrapped there, I'm going to move this a little bit out of the way. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to feed this through. I just want to wrap along the edge right there. You can like kind of pre-bend it a little bit so it'll go through a little bit easier and it doesn't kink. But it's wire, so you know, a little bit at a time. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to move this out of the way a little bit here. I'm just moving it down temporarily while I bend this towards this hole here. Try to get this through here. Without too many kinks. All right, so this wire went around and then up through this hole. It is very kinked from all the bending, so I'm just gonna run my finger over it. You can bend it one way and then bend it the other, and it'll help with those kinks and straightening it out a little bit. All right, now right here up at the top, I'm going to bend this over to the side like that. I'm going to make myself a little bail on top using my bail making pliers, and I'm just going to use this third step, so it goes 1, 2, 3, so this third step, because I don't want a large one, but I would like it to be a little bit bigger than the loops that I'm using on my other guys. I'm just going to pull this all the way around. there. And I'm going to just start wrapping this down. This doesn't have to be neat and tidy because this long one, we're going to be wrapping around this whole thing with that. I want a big fat wrap up here near the top. So I'm just going to be wrapping around like this. This part off right here. Then I can take the other half and I can wrap around the top. So this bit, I'm going to start from down here and I'm going to wrap it all the way up along there. I want a big fat wrap all the way up. Now I'm going to go back down. I got a little space right there to fill in. So there, that makes this really delicate bit a little more substantial. And it makes it so that this is not going anywhere. It is going to hold beautifully. And now I need to tuck this end in here. With our focal, and I'm just going to attach these to either side of my focal by opening and closing my simple loop on the ends. So this is a fairly simple and fairly quick if you can spend some time making the links, and I really enjoy making links. It's, you know, I'm not the only person who like finds it really relaxing to sit with a spool of wire and do some wire wrapping. But it is a very simple necklace. And we have so many gorgeous pieces in this box that it's hard not to make something beautiful with the simple things in there. All right, so now I just need to attach a clasp and I'm done. And I think for the clasp, I'm going to grab some, a couple of jump rings because I want more articulation with the clasps than they'll get if they're just attached to this. It'll make it easier for it to clasp closed. And I don't have any rose gold jump rings, but I do have these bright copper ones, which I feel like is close enough. So I'm just gonna do those. Because, I mean, look at it next to the, it's pretty close actually. I need to open that further. It is not a large enough loop for this clasp. There we go. Yeah, of all of my like rose gold findings, I don't have any rose gold jump rings, and I could make some with my wire, but I don't really feel like doing that today. I feel like just making a necklace. So that is what we're doing. We're just making this necklace, and I love it already, and I hope you guys love it too. You know what? If you don't love it, that's fine, because you have your own beads. You can make your own things, right? That's how it works. Come on, buddy. So I'm doing 2 jump rings on this end, and that's the end with the toggle, just so that I have, again, more articulation. Okay, there we go. So now we have a falling leaves beaded chain necklace. And I finally feel like I have done something, and I've made something, and I have shared it with y'all. So I hope you enjoyed this. I finally have a subscription code, a coupon code. If you are not a subscriber of the Bargain Bead Box and you would like to subscribe, you can get $2 off your first box with the code Beki, B-E-K-I. I will put it in the description below so you can see that. But I finally have one of those that I can share with y'all if you're not already getting one of these. And I hope you are having a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Bye!